The Maxine Goodman Levin College of Urban Affairs brings together individuals who are changing the face of urban America. Today we meet Dr. Roland V. Anglin, Dean of the Levin College of Urban Affairs.
Welcome to episode 1 of the Levin podcast series. I'm really excited to be doing this with the Dean of the Levin College and also Erica. I'm going to start with, I'm Kristen Blazek. I'm the coordinator of student recruitment for the College of Urban Affairs.
I'm Erica Betterson. I am a junior in the Urban Planning and Environmental Studies program, and I'm happy to be here.
I'm Roland Anglin, Dean of the Maxine Goodman Levin College of Urban Affairs at Cleveland State University.
All right. So we're going to start off with some questions, and I'd just like to get to know a little bit about you as a dean, Dean Anglin. So let's start off with, who are you as a dean, and where are you from?
Well, that's a good question. It's a series of questions that I'll begin with. Where I'm from. Mm-hmm. I'm from Brooklyn, New York.
Okay.
Grew up there in the 60s and 70s. Went to school at Brooklyn College, the City University of New York. Mm. That defines my early life and actually my early career.
Great. Awesome. So now that we know who you are and where you're from, can you give us a little bit about your educational background?
Well, as I said, got my BA from the City University of New York, Brooklyn College. Mm-hmm. Then was fortunate enough to be accepted at Northwestern University, where I got an MA, and then went down the road in Chicago to the University of Chicago and got a PhD.
Wow! So you've been all over the place then.
Yeah, I've been many places.
Okay, awesome. So you have a very vast educational background, but why are you so interested in urban affairs? Where did that interest come from?
Well, the interest comes from my early life.
Okay.
As I said, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and it was a time in the 1960s mm-hmm. when I lived in a community that was very diverse. We had many different ethnicities, and it was a great community for a young kid. I went in and out of people's homes. I learned different cultural norms, different cultural values, and I enjoyed myself getting to know my neighbors. Around the time I was 12 years old, I'm not going to give you the exact date, so I don't date myself, that all started to change. The community was effectively redlined. That means it was starved of capital. And it was blockbusted. Unscrupulous real estate agents came to existing residents and said, the other is coming. And the other in this case meant African Americans and Latinos. You need to sell quickly and get as much as you can because they're coming. Well, that effectively destroyed my neighborhood in the span of 2 to 3 years. And I was left asking the question, what happened to this beautiful, vibrant community that I grew up in? And that put me on a path to trying to reclaim that community. So that's why I went to graduate school, but even going to undergrad, it was always focused on urban studies, the urban crisis. And that, again, put me on a path of trying to reclaim, I call it my community on the hill. Not the city on the hill, the community on the hill.
Wow, that's very interesting. So we know that you have your background in Brooklyn, and we know that you grew up with a very vast community of people. But what brought you to the Levin College? Was there something here that you saw Levin was doing? What made you say, this is where I want to be, this is where I want to bring all of my knowledge and experience?
You know, the college is a very special institution.
Okay.
most schools or colleges of public affairs, because I think we fit in that genre, they tend to be very analytical. They look at an issue, call it the city, and they analyze it to death. But there's very little applied knowledge. There's very little getting in there and getting your hands dirty. That's not a knock on my fellow schools of public affairs or urban affairs. It's just the reality that this institution was born with two goals. One, to study urban issues. The other, to play an active role in changing what was wrong, what was lacking.
Right.
And it gained a national reputation. It started in 1977, really. And it gained this national reputation for being an active doer, an active change agent. And I wanted to be a part of that.
Right.
And when I came here to interview, it was very clear that that spirit was still there. And I just, as I tell people, I found my people.
You found your people. That's amazing.
I found my people.
I love that. So some of the things that the Urban College likes to implement and promote as our goals are equity, inclusion, social justice. And you kind of touched on this just a little bit ago about some of the work that the Levin College does in the community. But what do those terms mean specifically to you? So equity, inclusion, social justice. We hear those words a lot and they almost sound like buzzwords, but what do they mean to you in the college sense?
Well, equity for me has always meant access to opportunity. And so in the case of what we do at the college, it's trying to understand the barriers to equity.
Right.
Both the economic barriers, the social barriers, and what have you. What are the things, what are the institutional barriers to people getting a foot on the American ladder of upward mobility? In some cases, it's educational opportunity. In other cases, it's economic opportunity.
Right.
But that for me defines equity, the access to opportunity. Inclusion is more complicated in the sense that it is very much related to equity. But this country says that we are one people. We are one nation. Well, again, what are the barriers to that, us being one people? Inclusion means economic opportunity, it means social opportunity, and means cultural opportunity. I can talk about that a little bit. And social justice, again, is related to the previous two. It's a sense that this nation fought, died from its beginning to get to the stance of being a free, inclusive nation. And in that, we look for justice, we look for fairness, we again look for opportunity. And so for me, that constitutes social justice. They're related. All of those key buzzword terms that we throw around are very much related. Equity, inclusion, and social justice.
What would you say is one of the most proud moments you've had so far in the Levin College?
To be honest with you, is you sitting in front of me.
Oh my goodness.
And you're a student trustee, a brilliant student who is going to do great things for Cleveland, the region, and the nation.
Thank you. Thank you.
For me, this job comes down to who you brought along. I'm not a big fan of rap, but I am a big fan of Jay-Z.
Okay, all right.
And in that song where he talks about New York, which is a brilliant song, he says, "My worth is defined by who I brought with me." He brought his boys.
Yeah.
Well, I want to bring my students along, and that for me is what it's all about.
Wow. That's amazing. And as a current student, to hear you say that is really great. You've been definitely for students in the time that I've known you. So thank you very much, Dean Anglin. All right, so what would you like for the goal of this podcast series to be? So what does this mean to you? Why do you want to bring this to fruition?
I want the world to know that we have a wonderful community, a wonderful institution that is still doing great work after nearly 40 years in business. We train most of the public sector and nonprofit leaders in the Northeast Ohio region. We do that very well because we give them or equip them with the tools needed to be effective managers, effective leaders.
Right.
We want the world to know that we still believe in those three principles, those three themes, and we practice them. We practice them in how we manage our daily lives at the college, but also we instill those values in our students. And this media can help us get the message out because we want more folks to join us. Why? Because the world is changing. We now have globalization. We now have social unrest. We need to be involved. We need to be key in training the next and subsequent generations of public sector, nonprofit, and to a certain extent, private sector leaders.
Yeah. I definitely agree, yes. And you'd be surprised to know how many people my age, young people, are getting back on podcasts and listening to radio stations. So we're definitely going to be listening.
Well, I hope so. And I'm new to this medium, so you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Oh, my goodness. Well, we won't try. We'll just go on right along. So now for the really hard-hitting questions.
Oh, these were not hard-hitting questions? Oh, my goodness.
We got some good ones coming up.
We got the real hard ones. All right. So, what are your hobbies?
Well, the primary hobby has always been reading.
Oh, I love to hear that.
I read in a number of genres, science fiction, nonfiction, and poetry from all over the world. I pride myself on knowing poets from Japan, China, Middle East, because we don't often appreciate poetry from distant lands. The second hobby is one that stems from my childhood. I guess I've never really grown up.
Oh boy.
People look at me and they see this very stern person. But I like to collect metal cars, small metal cars.
Oh wow. Okay.
I have a range of cars and trucks that I've collected over the years. So much so that my basement is nearly full.
Oh my goodness.
So I stopped. And now I'm just admiring them. But those are my hobbies, reading and viewing and collecting small replicas of cars and trucks.
Wow, you'll have to bring some students over to see your car collection.
Well, I might bring some in.
Yeah, for sure.
A showcase in the atrium.
Okay.
For sure, yeah.
You have a deal.
So what is your favorite book then? You say reading is your hobby. What's your favorite book or one of your favorites?
Oh boy, they're all like my children. I don't want to say a favorite, but one book that stands out for me is Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe.
Okay, I've never heard of it.
It's Chinua Achebe was a Nigerian writer.
Okay.
He died a few years ago, and Things Fall Apart chronicles Nigerian society from village life to a modern society and what was lost in that transition.
Wow.
It's the book is a metaphor for many societies that were touched by colonialism and imperialism, and it's hard-hitting, it's unflinching, but yet it's an appropriate metaphor for a world that will never, ever come back.
Wow. That was a riveting book review. Now I want to go and read it.
You should.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you for sharing. All right, for our final hard subject, heavy hitter, who from history would you bring from dinner, and what would you ask them? So if you could bring anyone from all of history, sit down with you for dinner, who would it be?
There are about 3 people
Okay.
I would bring to dinner.
A full table. I love it.
1 I've met.
Okay.
2 no.
Okay.
There's Boudica, who was a female warrior from the British Isles, who took on the Romans and near defeated them.
Wow.
She was a master strategist and a motivator. The second person is Abraham Lincoln.
Okay.
This was there have been volumes of books and treaties written about Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
But if you read some of them, this was a complicated person who, on the one hand, wanted to preserve the Union and would have allowed slavery to continue. But his value system recognized it was wrong. I would love to have a conversation about some of the inherent tensions and contradictions in his beliefs. And the third person I was fortunate to meet, and that's Nelson Mandela.
Oh, wow. Yes.
He was a brilliant, witty, warm, decent human being.
Wow.
When you were in the room, and I don't say I was not fortunate to have a conversation with Nelson Mandela. I will say, though, I was in the room with Nelson Mandela. And you could feel that warmth, that wittiness, that essential humanity.
Yeah.
And I think all 3 would be great dinner companions.
Wow.
And unfortunately, I'm not sure it's going to happen in this life. But those are the 3 people I would bring to dinner.
Wow. Would they all be together or separately?
I am a big believer in human conversation over a meal.
Yeah.
And so I would love to have all 3 of them there.
Wow.
I think it would be an interesting conversation.
For sure. They'd all bring different things to the table. That would be a very interesting conversation. Wow.
Do you have anything further you want to add, or anything to ask Erica?
Oh, boy.
Yeah, right? Flip it over.
Well, I would flip it over and say, Erica, who would you bring to dinner and to have a conversation?
It's a really good question. And I think that it does change based on the point in time that you're in. And for right now, I'm learning so many different, lessons in perseverance. I think one person who I would bring to dinner right now is C.S. Lewis. He was a philosopher. And I've been reading his works and seeing how his mind just brings together all of the big questions in life. And I think in college we have a lot of things at our disposal, a lot of things that we want to learn and trying to figure out our place in the world. And so reading C.S. Lewis's works has really helped me kind of grasp some of those ideas of who we are as people and where we fit in this world. So I'd love to have a conversation with him.
Yeah, that's a wonderful choice. Especially since Lewis is thought to be a progenitor of Christian values.
Yeah.
But he was not much more than that, but he's certainly a layered thinker. You can't put him in one category, one box.
Yeah.
He really does speak to our essential humanity and what it means to be in this world and to do well in this world.
Yes, for sure.
So I would add him to my list too.
Oh boy, okay. I need to come to that dinner.
Right. That sounds. Can we all just go to that dinner? I'll be the fly on the wall.
Oh my gosh.
At the dinner, just gonna sit back and watch.
Absolutely. Who would you bring to dinner?
So it changes. It's usually between either Queen Victoria or Catherine the Great.
Okay.
But more recently, Fred Rogers. I've decided I really want to bring Fred Rogers to dinner because he revolutionized children's television into it's not just all about lights and sounds. It's you can talk to children on an adult level to them, that they understand that kind of subject matter, and also to talk to him about how he got the funding back for public television, because in like 10 minutes he got the funding back.
Wow.
He talked to it's in the documentary. They show him, the senator was just yelling at everybody. It's like, you guys, I'm not spending this much money on this, and blah, blah, blah. He gets up there and he goes, I know you don't have time for this, but I'm going to read you, I'm not going to read you my full statement. You've got it. But I'm going to just, quote one of the songs that I sing to the children. And he quoted the song, and he was very gentle. His tone was very gentle. And at the end of it, the senator was like, yeah, you just got the funding. You got it. And so to just kind of, I honestly, I just want him to tell me that it was great for me to stop by.
But you notice that we all have talked about people with human values, human values that change the world. And I want to bring it back to the college. That's why Levin is so important, because we are based in the value system that changes the world. And so it's a testament to all of us who are connected to the college that we've chosen people with those clear values
For
about
sure.
change and improvement.
Wow.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Erica, for doing this. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for this. So also check out, if you enjoy listening or watching this, you can check out our website. It's csuohio.edu/Levin. We got all sorts of great events going on there. Check out our forum program. We got a lot of great forums that are coming up. And definitely subscribe so you can hear more of this. So thank you guys so much, and I think that's it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.